It's funny. Like I say, um, it's amazing. Like things like the sound wall that they used to use at the Woodstock or whatever concerts. Um, all that stuff. Like I say, I actually funded it. It's funny because well, they're doing this one thing, and they were trying to use like a great big huge speaker to. Well, it was good for some tones, but it wasn't good for the actual like music and stuff. It's basically just one of the big air raid sirens, basically, except modified, so it's a speaker, or whatever. But so it didn't really, wasn't okay. So anyway, I think I might have actually paid for them to do that, but I mean, even I was like, well, or my scientists were like, that's not really going to work for music. Like I said, I had sound technicians back in Germany. That's the funniest thing too, is that all the soundboards, all the stuff. Like people say MIT, people say this. It's like no, actually Germany. Germany is where the soundboards actually started, um, and all the different sound mixing things, all the different frequencies. And actually, believe it or not, it's actually my leftover test equipment for testing out sounds and stuff like that. Like I said, I actually paid I don't know how much money, a lot of money to the Germans, basically. Well, I mean, I was rich back then. But I mean, drugs and everything else like that. Like people don't really realize how much pioneering actually Germany actually did with the whole drug manufacturing and everything else. Like everything was already set up. Like and some people would actually say, well, everything was actually already set up, and because it was. Germany already had the plans for everything, and that's one of the things that JFK and Nixon actually wanted to do is they wanted to change it and try and make it so USA was actually like the one who thought of everything, and basically they were just stealing the plans from Germany and you know and then bringing it over to US and basically trying to say that it was theirs, but it's like no, actually Germany had it already planned out and everything, and it was already very much well worked on, and we already had the speakers and everything, even the roll cages for the cars. A lot of people in the 50s and 60s would be like, I invented, it's like, actually, no, Germany was already doing the roll cages for everything from four-wheel drives to the tractors and everything else like that. Like, they were already doing all the bent tubing in Germany. Like, all my railings and stuff like that. I did those, but those were stylistic, and we were doing some other stuff, and I wanted some roll cages done for the cars. Like, there's actually this whole line of German cars that should have been kept, but I'm sure they wanted them destroyed, of course, because it showed basically that Germany had everything already set up, the limos, everything. Everything was already done in Germany long before, like coming into 1945 or so, 1948, around Poland and stuff. Like we were messing around testing everything out. Like uh, like I say, they wanted to do this thing like Germany was a wreck actually in like 1940. It was actually being rebuilt by 1940. I'd say it actually happened like it was almost rebuilt completely, totally by 1940. Um, and it was actually like in 1940, basically China was the one that was actually getting hammered and destroyed. Not Germany. Germany was rebuilding and pretty much looking pretty good by 1944 or so, 1950. It was basically almost completely done, actually. Germany actually got destroyed about 1890 or so, going on 1920 was the wrecking of Germany, and then it was already finished basically by like 1940 or 1930 or so. Just needed a few improvements, a little bit more expansion, stuff like that. It was already very well built, and even China, I think, was actually like most of the war actually happened back in 1920, and so a few skirmishes. I mean, there's nothing from 1940 on really to speak of. Some small wars, a few small things, but nothing really like all that stuff about war and everything. That was 1940. That was 1890 and 1910, 1920 was really like where it was being destroyed. It was already being rebuilt. It was almost rebuilt too, or was rebuilt actually. Like we didn't just go from Rex City to. I mean, with all those dates, they're saying 1940 whatever. It's like no, then we didn't rebuild everything in that short a time. We're already way rebuilding. It was a real war happened in 1700, 1800. Like I said, realistically, they didn't understand how entrenched I was. I mean, I was very well entrenched and all that. So, anyway, basically, just the United States has been trying to claim a lot of things that actually weren't theirs at all. And like I say, Vietnam vets were trying to make it look like they weren't the stupid idiots that they were. And they were. Like I said, a lot of things with like the chemical attacks and stuff like that, you'll find that was actually like well, it was all that stuff was happening in Japan in China. It was all China from 1940 on. The only war and destruction or whatever, actually from 1930 on, the only war and destruction was actually in China about then. And there wasn't a lot in China. There was some stuff, but it was all just I don't know, not really high tech stuff. Like they had to like totally redo everything, and it was mostly just small houses and stuff like that, and not all that much really. I mean, rice paddies, farmland, that kind of thing. I mean, it wasn't really developed yet. And most of that happened from in 1960, and that's where like Richard Nixon and a lot of other people wanted to make themselves look like heroes or whatever. So they released all those videos and stuff like that, trying to make it look like they had actually like been the purveyors of truth and justice. But like like I say, by the time 1960 rolls around, I mean Richard Nixon has lied about so many things that it's just so fucking obvious that every word out of his mouth has basically been a lie his whole life, and everyone else like it's just completely totally obvious that all this stuff is just basically bullshit and lies. Like the drugs being illegal and stuff like that. I mean, drugs have been legal for a long time. I always had like I wouldn't have had to actually have. I mean, I paid a lot of money for that and had teams of people, whole teams working on LSD, methamphetamine, like hundreds of hours of tests. Like you can go look at it, and there's pages and pages and pages and pages of studies on both LSD and methamphetamine. I mean, they for some reason they consider it national security, but that's just because they're being stupid. It's not national security. It's not top secret, but it's labeled as that. But basically, and mostly it's mostly that how they stole it from Germany and killed a bunch of people. That's actually top secret national security. Um, but basically, I mean, 20-year-old kids and a bunch of other people will basically, you'll have your jaw open going, what the fuck? About all this stuff. I mean, even the black people will be like, what the fuck? Because it's like, well, they wanted power, they wanted control or something, and basically they just didn't give a fuck about anyone. Not their mother, not their son, not their brother. And a lot of it was just stupidity. Like things like robbing a store or trying to take over. It's like they didn't have to do it. And mostly I think it had to do with killing of me or removing my power. It's like, well, I'm not really based on Earth anyway, and it's just them just running around and destroying with tanks. So, like I say, drugs are legal. Have been legal. I legalized it in quite a few countries. I was like, okay, well, here I'm going to make drugs legal. Besides, why would I build a chemical factory if I wasn't going to make drugs legal anyway? A lot of people later on were like, duh. It's like, yeah, well, I own the whole country, and by the time I got the drug manufacturing company going and everything else, and we got the drugs actually clean and safe for people to use, um, I was basically rich enough to buy whatever I wanted, pretty much, and I did. I bought the whole country, and I was basically the one employing everyone, and pretty much, believe it or not, instead of actually just living a fabulous lifestyle, although I mean I'm already the creator, so yeah. So basically, I just turned it all into research and building more. So we built a lot more, and basically, it's a good thing that humanity had an epic creator like me because I planned ahead for all the farms and all the defense and all the possibility of stupidity. So anyway, and there wasn't really much that could go wrong, really, other than someone nuking the whole planet. But then again, like I say, I'm LS, a different level.